Greetings, this is Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, with more games I love with Terraforming Mars. I have the big box version, thankfully. All sorts of cool stuff came with it. Goal of Terraforming Mars is to have the most terraforming rating at the end. The end of the game is triggered by maxing out oxygen, temperature, and placing line oceans. You'll get points at the end for having forests, or greeneries as they're called, cities adjacent to greeneries, milestones that you achieve during the game, awards that are checked at the end of the game, cards. Some cards will just straight up have points on them. Others gather tokens during the game and are worth points at the end. And once all that's figured, most points wins. I've seen a lot of games get up into this range. Very few I've seen get higher. But I noticed that with fewer players, points are more likely to be much higher than games with like 5 players. We'll go over the gameplay real quick. At the start of the game, you'll have 2 random corporations out of the stack. Because we played the game quite a bit, the group I play with likes to do 3. You also have a hand of 10 cards to cut down to the ones you want to hold on to. Every corporation has different starting money, and every card you choose to hold on to costs 3. So the more cards you keep, the less money you're going to have. But if you have a corporation that starts with a lot of money, then it's not too big of a deal. You'll have your little player board of production and storage, resources interact with these tokens, 1s, 5, 10. There you go. At the end of every round, you'll gain production based on what you have on your board here and your terraforming rating. Energy you have from the current turn becomes heat for the next turn. Among the resources you have, steel can be used on building tags, because they're brown and house shaped. To make those cards cheaper by 2 per one you use. Titanium makes space cards cheaper by 3 for each one you use. Plants, if you gather 8 of them, you can plant a greenery, which will raise the oxygen. If you have 8 heat, you can raise the temperature. Raising the oxygen, the temperature, planting an ocean raises your TR. And that gets you more money on the production step. Also during your turn, in addition to playing cards, there are standard projects, selling excess cards you're never going to play. Getting a power plant, raise temperature, play an ocean, play greenery, get a city, and get more money production. There's also claiming milestones. Only 3 can be claimed over the course of the game. Or funding an award, which are resolved at the end of the game based on certain conditions. On your turn, you'll get 2 actions, and once you do your 2 actions, next player can go. You choose to only do one action, but if you choose to pass, you are done for the round completely. Once everyone's passed, people will get their production, and we'll go on to the next turn. Starting with the second generation and onward, each player will start that round with 4 cards to choose from and purchase. We do the draft option, so you'll like take one, pass it, and the next player will take one out of that. And once all the cards are distributed, players can decide out of their drafted cards which one to hold on to, or ones if they afford it. Again, every card costs 3 money. There's no hand limit, but buying more cards than you really need or plan to use is going to be wasteful. But eventually, all the conditions will max out, and that'll be the end of the game. And finally, we'll cover the expansions. There's Elysium and Hellas, which provides more maps to play on. We end up playing on these ones more than the base map. Elysium's got a whole lot of planets together. A big concentrated ocean spot right here, and a great desert, and different milestones and awards. Meanwhile, Hellas has the southern, the South Pole with its ice to be melted into an ocean. There's some spots for more water here near, and the planets are way up here. And again, different milestones and awards. So I recommend it because it gives more options to play. Playing the base map is nice, but being able to switch up the maps is a lot of fun. Next expansion is Venus Next, which adds Venus tags and floaters. It also adds potential for new award and new milestone, and then the Venus board itself. Venus can be raised, which gets TR and potentially card at bonus TR. A new standard project lets players spend money and scrape air off Venus. It's okay. It's something extra to play with. But next are Prelude Cards. So, in addition to your starting corporations, you'll have 4 Prelude cards to choose from and pick 2. After everyone reveals their corporation and resolves its effects, it'll go around again, except players will reveal their Prelude cards and do what it says. Like this one's UNMI Contractor to get 3 more TR and a free card. And then there's a card Space Agency for 6 titanium and 2 cards off the top of the deck. The first 2 that are space tags. There's a whole lot of effects: production, resources, cards. So let's start with the city. Big recommendation because it helps add to the variety in the game. Next expansion is Colonies. It's pretty loud. So at the start of the game, there'll be colonies out there based on the number of players. They'll start given value, and and every turn they'll go up. If a player trades cost 9 money, 3 energy, or 3 titanium. So they'll go here, they got all that stuff. If you actually have a colony, building a colony costs 17. So you go there. Whoever has a colony there gets the colony bonus, and it'll start up higher. So next time someone goes there, it'll be worth it sooner. Up to 3 players can have colonies on a given world, and the same player cannot have 2 colonies unless they play a card that actually does so. The colonies just do all sorts of stuff, like getting resources. Building an actual colony can get production itself. I recommend it because it adds more ways to get stuff, which sometimes it's not easy. Resources are sometimes hard to find. And then finally, we have Turmoil. So Turmoil adds 2 major things. The global events and the actual government board. At the start of the game, there'll be the Greens party policy. There'll be a dominant party starting with whoever has the most in a given group. If playing with the base map, Terraformer is now easier to accomplish. It's easier to accomplish because after everyone gets their production and all that, there'll be the TR revision, which will set everyone back up by 1. And there'll be a global event if there's one in the slot here. Which will be this bottom one. And then the new government, whichever party has like the most people in it. So let's say this one. So it's probably cover actual, taking over the party and all that. So, for example, let's say at first Mars First had like 2 guys, and Calvinist had 1. So Mars First is currently dominant. Let's say on my turn I put my free guy in there into the Calvinist. So there's 2, so it's a tie, so it stays with where it is. And this is a tie, so the neutral stays there. So I choose to spend 5 on a turn where I've already used my free 1. So now I outnumber, so I take over the party leader spot, and then this 3 is more than this 2, so they become the dominant party. So new government step happens. I become chairman, which will get me a TR. We put the Calvinist party policy out. So a number of times per turn, a player can spend 10, increase their energy and heat production. And then everyone gets 1 money for every heat production they currently have. And then this swings around to the next highest for next turn. And then changing times. So this will move in, which will add a neutral to the Greens. This will move in. this is drawn, which will add one to the top group. In this case, the reds. This one's an interesting expansion. It's tough because GRs always getting set back, so there's less money to work with, which can make the game take a little bit longer. But it's offset by the money gained through this. Certain events depend on whether how much influence you have. You get influence if you're the chairman, if you're the dominant party leader, and if you occupy the back end of the dominant party. So there's one, and there's one. If I had 3 guys spread across all that, that's 3 influence. And yeah, that's all the expansions for now. Aside from the big box, which is big, came with plastic tiles and replacement cards for stuff that is finally getting special tiles like the Great Dam. And yeah, that's all the expansions. So what I love about this game, the replayability. You can end up with a different corporation, different Prelude, different colonies, different Turmoil sequence of random events and other things. It's a game that rewards long-term planning and thinking ahead. It's just fun to me, I like looking at the cards and thinking I can do this now to set me up to do this later, with the end goal of accomplishing this big thing. And there's not a whole lot players can do to mess with each other than, take a spot someone's hoping for on the map, or Turmoil, or colonies. Yeah, it's not as bad as some games where you can mess with players so thoroughly that it turns people off. Now this game has some actual restraint in that, but there's still things you can do. And this game is rated high on BGG for who knows what, but it's like I can totally see why. Between the replayability and the strategy and everything else, I think it deserves to be as high as it is. But yeah, Terraforming Mars, awesome game. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. The base game itself is totally worth it. So, once again, it's been Pillar Nexus, and this is probably like one of the biggest games I'm going to feature here. I consider Clash of Cultures and maybe Horizon Zero Dawn and maybe Descent. We'll see. But thank you for watching so much. I want to keep this series going because I still have a ton of games that I love. I'm going to feature them. So see you at the next video. Thank you.